name is Lorigill. I'm the founder of the Attachment and Trauma Treatment Center for Healing. Really honored to have my good friend Anne-Marie here with us today. Anne-Marie Lockmyer is an award-winning author, a speaker, and a grief and loss specialist. She's the founder of the Grief and Trauma Healing Network, and she's joining us from California to share some tips and strategies and techniques for us during this time. I will add, Anne-Marie also came through our trauma and attachment certification program for those of you who are viewing that are familiar with that. And I thought it would be really important for her to come and share some of her thoughts around tips and techniques or advice that may be helpful to people during this time. I'm cognizant that there are people who have lost loved ones during this time, before this time, and I wonder if you could speak to that at all. Any tips or strategies or considerations that we could keep in mind for supporting them or for taking care of and tending to ourselves if that's something that we've experienced.
Great question. Thank you for thinking of that, Lori. Well, I'm a widow myself, so I put myself in that category. It's been quite a while for me, so I'm actually doing very, very well. But I work with people who've lost loved ones, and what I have noticed is, especially right now, and I work with a group of widows, and so I'm in constant communication with them. They are particularly lonely right now. If you've lost your spouse specifically, so if you're a widow or a widower specifically, and I think if you've lost anyone, of course your loss is heightened. So I don't mean to downplay that, but there is something about this isolation that even if they felt that they were doing better and healing, they kind of feel like they're regressing because it is so clear that their spouse is not with them right now. And they see other people that are in their homes with their family and they're not with their spouse. And most of the ones I talk to, they're alone too. They don't even have their children with them because they tend to be older. So they're completely isolated. So a couple of things. One is that I find that, first of all, they can think they're regressing. So they're very discouraged because they think they may have made progress. And I want to tell them, you're not regressing at all. It's just a little blip in the road. It would be normal that something like this would cause you to particularly miss your spouse. So that makes sense. You are not moving backwards. This is just a tough time, but you are still moving forward, and it won't always be this way. So keep that in mind. Also, I want to encourage them. Do you know what you've gone through this far? What you've already had to overcome to get to this point and what you've endured? You know, I think sometimes we forget as widows and widowers just how strong we are and what we have had to go through. And just remember that we can do this. We can do this. Community is important if you can do that. So whether it's, I've got now a Zoom group of widows that we meet, we meet first we were only met once, but we're also desperate for socialization that we do our Zoom parties once a week. And, we were talking, first of all, we were talking about how scared everybody is and the things that they're concerned about. But then we wanted to bring some fun into it. So I encourage you to do that. So we're doing themes. We did a beach theme, and then we did winter theme, and we're going to do a toga one next week. I mean, it's just crazy, but do something like that. And these are the kind of things that you do when you're in isolation. So that's one of the other things I would encourage. I've had good success in working with widows and widowers, asking them this question: who do you want to be when this is all over? What do you want to look like when this is all over? And I think that's a really good question because it's easy for us to get caught up in it. And I had to ask myself that question because at the rate I was going, I thought I'm going to be a fat and an alcoholic by the time, I just started eating, I started drinking wine. And I had to kind of change my idea of who do I want to be and how am I going to get there? I'd like to be physically strong. I'd like to be fit. I'd like to be healthy. So I want to make choices that lead to that. Few of the widowers and widows that I've talked to, they've thought, well, I can't do much because I'm isolated, but I can call people who are on their own. And so they've been reaching out to people that they know who are on their own. I have one person, they're just making masks. They've made 150 masks, but it made them feel good. So what is it that makes you feel good? Maybe you want to donate to a food pantry. I don't know. Maybe you want to call and read stories to your grandchildren. or do Zoom things. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we could figure out for you to do. So we do want to keep you busy. We do want to try and establish our routine. That'll help us not be too depressed, because it's easy to depress. So let's get out of our pajamas most days. And, 9 o'clock, have breakfast. Maybe it's 12 o'clock, have lunch and talk to a friend. Do yoga. I know that you love yoga and you know the benefits of it, Lori. I can't. Same thing for me. It's really powerful. Even if it's just 15 minutes of moving your body, it makes you feel better. You can do it all for free. There are online communities. If you want to join an online community of widows or widowers or of any loss, if it's any death of a loved one, there's all sorts of online communities that you could engage with. Maybe there's some books you want to read. I had one widow that was, she took up her guitar. And she's doing guitar lessons online. So she's decided she wants to play the guitar. Be gentle and gracious with yourself. Okay. And it's also okay that, at 4 o'clock, I binge watch Perry Mason or Little House on the Prairie. I mean, but it's a schedule. So it gives you something to find anything to be grateful for in the midst of this. I'm writing one thing down a day when I go to bed, just one thing to be thankful for, to help maybe change your mindset. But if you are by yourself and you are missing your spouse that is no longer with you, my heart goes out to you. And I just want those people to know they're not alone. There's a community who really does understand, and there's a way to connect you. There's a way to connect you. And if you're having a tough time, you're normal. If you want to support those people, I would encourage you, just take them a meal if you want. On Easter, I went around and delivered meals to people just to see a real body. Maybe you just even want to get flowers, drop them at their door. Drive by with a sign, but let them know they are not forgotten. That means the world to us, just to know that someone hasn't forgotten that we're on our own. And, it wouldn't necessarily even just be someone who's lost somebody. It could even be someone who's single through a divorce or whatever, but that is on their own. Who is on their own that you need to reach out to? It could be a good question.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's I think so needed for so many people, and I really appreciate your thoughts, your heart that you have for helping to heal others, and the kindness that you share. I will include your website link and information so people know how to contact you at the end of the video. And again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and sharing these tips and techniques today. There are a lot of people who are struggling and suffering right now, and I think everything that we can do to help share healing techniques, information, strategies is a start.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's always a joy to be with you.
Oh, thank you.